This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Paul Lambert. I'm the senior trainer here at TeslaLink. For this particular webinar, this is just kind of an open forum question and answer kind of thing. There's not a particular agenda on anything that we're going over in specific. So if you do have any questions that you've had building up while using the software, or you're curious about a specific part of it, if you can put those in the chat, that way I can answer them in order and we can make sure everybody gets a chance to ask some questions. Then that would be a great way of doing it. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in there and we'll get started on this.
What's that, 4230? 2. All right, well, I'll have someone give you a spell.
Do we have anybody with specific questions for this week? If not, I can go over the kind of the overview of TeslaLink, how it works, and just an introduction to it.
The $1,000 a month I made, that's the second one. I know what that is. I need the $10,200. I don't know. I think Jim would have made it.
All right, I'll go ahead and start then. Oh, here we go. Question on how to create locations for customers. All righty, pull this up here. Make sure everybody can see my screen real quick. Looks like it. Perfect. So TeslaLink allows you to have customers log in and see different things, as well as to create sub-locations for each customer. So you can organize and you can report against that. There's a lot of feedback on my end and background noise. Give me just a second. Let me see if I can fix that. There you go. Hopefully that helps. If not, then let me know and I'll see if I can fix anything else on there. So for creating locations for customers, it's the same as creating locations for yourself. So under asset management, if we go over to this left side and click on locations, this is going to bring up the locations menu, but you'll notice whenever you press search, it's just going to be locations for your own company. The way that you change that is up in this top right hand corner. So if we switch from my tenant and say instead that I want to create locations for SEPCO, when I load it up, it'll show the different locations here. You can also do sub-locations within your customers. So for instance, you can see some of these have different parents. If I click on this hierarchy button right here, it'll give a slightly better view of what that actually looks like instead of trying to figure it out here. So let's click on hierarchy. And you can see it comes up with the different sub-locations in a little tree like this. And so you can choose whichever ones you need and make sure that everything's set up correctly. If you want to create a new location for it, then you click on the create new button here. Anytime that you're doing that, make sure you're in the right context here. This blue box is referred to as the context. So if it says my tenant, that means you're creating a location for yourself. And if it's on one of your customers, you're creating it for that customer. So I want to create a new location for SEPCO here. So let's go ahead and create new. Disneyland. And then if you want that to be a sublocation of another one, then you will click on this parent location and choose where you want it to be. So Disneyland is going to be a sublocation of Perdido. And then we can click save. And now when I go back in here, you'll see it gets added on. And then when I go to the tree view, it's been added in here. You can see there's no drop down button next to this, because this doesn't have a sublocation inside of it, whereas Prince does as Yard 1. And that works for all the different ones that you have. If you have a whole bunch of customers and you need to sort them, you can start typing, and it'll pop up with that customer too, so you don't have to scroll all the way down and find whoever the customer is for this. This drop-down box works in several different areas. So you will also see that, for instance, with contacts, if you're setting something up for reorder, you can see who that is by customer on here. So if I want to add a reorder contact for a specific customer, I can go in, oops, if I click correctly, I can click on the customer that I want to add it for, create new, and I'll add it for specifically that customer as opposed to for my own company here.
I did see it, yeah.
we have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat while I'm talking, and I'll get to them as we go. As for assets that you want to remove, unfortunately, there's not a way in TestLink to delete an asset from a customer perspective. Because it's a system of record, we don't want to be able to delete assets themselves. That does not preserve the integrity of the system of record. So there's two different ways. If there's something, for instance, on these where it's a test one that you want to get rid of, you can email our support team and we'll be able to remove that for you. If you say, here's the list of asset numbers that I want removed. For instance, I want to remove test space 1, I want to remove test 1, 2, 3. And if you send that to us, then we can remove that for you. However, if you don't want to have to send that in, there is another way to at least keep it out of your searches, which is to set the status. So if I go into whichever asset I want, let's say test 0909. Up at the top, there's a little drop-down button that is for the status. It defaults to active because everybody automatically defaults to active. That's what most of them are going to be. I can instead switch that to deactivated. Deactivated is kind of the closest that you can get to removing the asset from your system. It's not going to show up in things unless you specifically search for it. So we're looking at test 0909. When I go back here, if I set the status to deactivated, that's when it's going to show up. And you can see we have a couple of those, but most of the time your status is going to be set to looking at active ones. And so when I look in there, search for test 0909, it doesn't show up because I'm looking at the active. So that's the way that you can kind of do it on your own. If you want them truly removed from your system, just send us an email saying these are the ones that we want to remove. That way we have a written record saying, yes, this is the reason that those assets got removed. All right, next question was, how do you pull up test certs and how do you update inspection reports with an order number and a PO number? Let me go ahead and pull up TestLink here. So I'm going to pull up the desktop version as well. If you're on the web, let me find one real quick that has the right type of form. There we go. All right. So if you want to pull up the report for it, if you want to just see the information itself, you can go into the details of the form. So if I want to pull up this asset real quick to see what it looks like. That. I can go to the completed work of that particular one, find the pressure test itself, and then we have the results for that sitting under the attachment. So I can pull up the JPEG here if I want. And it'll show the test chart here. If I want the entire report, I can go to reports on this left-hand side, go to forms. I can choose the report type. In this case, I want to do a completed ops form details because I want to see everything on there. The template and the asset number here. And then generate it. Give it just a second. That looks like I pulled up too many here, so we have a couple different options. Let's see. Go back.
Oh, sorry. Crap going on today. You're right.
And it looks like my account is currently broken. So you'll run the completed ops form details on the form that has the pressure test on here. You also have the attachments right here, and then you can also pull it directly off of the test bench. Give me just a second, I'm pulling that up for you here on the screen. And then I'll show you on the web how to mass update it. Actually, I'll show you that right now. If you want to update a couple different things at the same time, the order number for particular ones, for instance, we can go in here and let me switch this to something else. So we have multiple results. So you can go in and say, I want to update the order number for everything for this particular asset. So you're going to check all the boxes of the ones that you want, and then click on Mass Actions. And there's a button that says Update Customer PO and Order Number. When you click on that, you can change it to whatever you want it to be, and it'll update all of them. So let's change these all to insert order update forms, and it's going to apply that to all the different ones you had. So updated successfully up here. Go ahead and pull up this right here. Oh, I am in a different account right now. Right. There we go. And then we can run, if we want to do the pressure test on this, scroll down and do it right in here in the desktop app. Unfortunately, this is not doable on the web. This has to be done on desktop because that's how it integrates with the pressure test. But you can put in the order number here. Click on the graph and it'll pop up with the test for us here. Jay, yes, you would be emailing Brandon about that. You'd be able to take care of it to remove the assets. Just support at tessalink.com, and he's usually the one that replies to that. Pull over the test bench here, and then this is where you're going to put in the working load, and we can start here. We're leaving it at a 1.0. You would ramp it up to whatever pressure you need it to be. Let it sit for however long it needs to sit, and then stop it and save and close. It's going to save the data right there and pull up the rest of the options for us. So it looks like I'm having a little bit of trouble staying connected here. There we go. So this is the information. Then we can put in any comments that we needed, and then at the end, pass it, preview that certificate, and it'll show up here for us as well. Jay, it is possible for us to create and build templates for your company. If you're talking about the templates like this, give it just a second. If you're talking about like the reports like this, or if you're talking about forms, we can do both of those. If you're talking about the header and the footer, the actual templates themselves, that we do not do. That would be probably best for a graphic designer, but we are happy to help you upload those once you do have it. If you're talking about the format of how the certs look, that we are more than happy to work with you on. The cost is not something that I can quote. If you ask your account manager about it, that's something that they'll be able to help you with for sure. It'll depend on what all is in the template, how long it'll take, they think, for to build it, and what goes into the template itself. How to enter an asset and fill the forms on desktop application. So we're on desktop right now. Let me go ahead and delete this here. This is going to be mostly what it looks like. Let me go ahead and clear that so you show everything. So this is going to be what it looks like with all the information from the same thing as you have on the web. If you want to create an asset, it's going to work very similarly to the web. So up in this top right-hand corner, there's a little blue plus. We're going to click on Create New while we're in this Assets menu. If we have a template that we want to use, TestLink always recommends that you use a template to make sure everything stays consistent. You can fill in the information here or just click Search and it'll pop up with all the different templates that you have. So in this case, let's make a 4-leg wire rope sling. Choose the template that you want to use and press OK. And it's going to pop up and pre-fill the information that you have already selected in your template. So you're going to put in the asset number that you want to put in. In this case, let's do test 22520. If it has a serial number, put that in as well. A lot of people use the serial number as an asset number, so we'll do that. If you have an RFID chip, you would click in here, scan it in at this point. Select the owner that you want and the location. One quick thing to note, you don't see Disneyland here, and that's because I've not synced on here. So currently, we're about to be updating this, but with the current release of TestLink, you have to synchronize in order to update the data between all your devices. And so I have not done that yet, and so the desktop application has not seen the changes that I've made on the web. So let's go ahead and select this location. And then we can add in any tags or description if we want anything extra here, as well as put in the capacity on this. So let's say that this wire rope sling is a 5-ton. And the wire rope diameter is a 2-inch. So you see those both populate right in there. If I need to add in schedules or any of the other information here, I can throw that in. So we don't need any attachments for this one, but let's go ahead and put in a schedule. You can see there's one for generic inspection. For wire rope sling, I want this every 6 months. So I'll put in 6 and change this to a month. And I want that to have a 45-day warning. So 45 days before this is before this needs to be inspected, I want it to send out an email saying, here, this is going to be on the list of assets that need to be inspected soon. And rather than a generic inspection, I want to do specifically a visual inspection. And at the end, I can either save, or if I have a bunch of these, for instance, if I'm making 50 wire rope slings, I can click on this Save Multiple. And this works the same as on the web. So I can change this quantity to however many I need, press refresh, and it's going to let me put in other asset numbers and serial numbers so that I can create a bunch of this at the same time. They do need to be the exact same. So if I have, if 3 of these are 5-ton and one of them is a 4-ton, I can't make 5 in this case. I would have to make just the 4 and then go back and create the 4-ton separate because it's going to take all the information that I have here and copy it over exactly. So that includes the values right here, that includes the schedules and the warning period, and that includes any attachments that I put in as well. So for now, we'll just save this one.
Okay.
Give it just a second to load here. There we go. And then that one finishes out. If I want to go back, I can use this little back arrow key and we can see, let's search for it instead. Test 2, 25, 20. And it pops up right here for us, confirming that it is in there. All right, Gary says, when I do a multi-asset operation on desktop app, why do all asset numbers with similar numbers show up from different customers? I filtered a customer at the beginning of the inspection, and I filtered why does it show other people. So you're talking about when I do a multi-asset operation. So let's get rid of that and narrow this down by owner. Like you were saying.
Thank you, Ron.
And it should narrow it down to only people from this particular owner. If it's showing other owners as well, then it's possible that you need to press clear first and then try reselecting the owner here to narrow it down to just that one. If you do the asset, or if you do the operation itself, so if we say, I want to, whatever it is, do a reorder for these, and you put in the order number, the quantity, and the contacts. And then it's showing up after. It's possible that the search field just got messed up while you were in the middle of doing the operation, and so it resets it. If that's happening consistently, definitely reach out to our support team, and we can go through. We just need to be able to document that and basically take a video so we can bring it back to our developers and have them look at it. That should not be happening consistently. There you go. Let's go ahead and we can look at forms real quick while we're on the desktop as well. Most of the time your forms are going to be in the web. That's more kind of what it's used for. The desktop is primarily used for operations where you don't need internet or you don't have internet, as well as for test bench, which is definitely the main thing that desktop is used for. However, you can search for things on here. So if I just click search, it's going to return all the different forms that I've started on here, any ones that are in progress, as you can see up at the top, as well as any ones that have passed, failed, or completed. I can export these. So if I choose, for instance, like this swivel joint, I can then export it to Excel if I need, or I can mass action update it from here. So earlier we had, I believe Paula was asking, about being able to update, and I showed that on the web. I didn't show it on here. It's done the exact same way. You select whichever one you need, and then mass action and update. It's going to pop up with the same thing, order number and PO number. You can do it from right there. All right, let's go ahead and look at adding some assets to lists on here, so you guys can see what that looks like. Let me double check real quick. There we have my list right there. So you can add different things to a list, which makes it easier to work with. So for instance, if I need to narrow down what I see down to just what I'm working on a specific palette. For instance, in Frac Iron, a new palette comes in and I only want to see this one that I'm working on as it goes through the process. If I find those assets either by RFID scanning them in right here or finding each one and adding it individually. So I can say I want to add this one that we just did as well as this test 1993. Up at the top, there's a little button that says add all. If I click on that, oh, whoops, sorry, I did not mean to do that. I just added a lot more than I meant to. I added the 9 that was showing. You can remove individual ones here as well. So this is a list that lets you do multiple things, or lets you do something to everything in the list. So for instance, if I want to do a visual inspection, I look at these, they all pass. And for my particular company, we don't require a picture or anything. We just say either it passed or I'll mark it as failed. Up at the top, you can mass action and you can do it from here. So I can click on fill forms at this point and say that I want to do a visual inspection for this. And then if I need to fill in the form for it, I can do that, or I can just pass it directly from here. It's going to say, you're about to pass all of these. Are you sure you want to pass it? We say yes. And then give it just a second here to actually fill out the form for each of those.
Yeah, I didn't know you and Romero were neighbors.
There we go. And now you can see each of these. Well, actually, you can't see it from here. Let's go into form summary real quick so you can see. But everything from the list had it applied to those particular things. Let's see. So inspection. Let me narrow down the form template. There you go. And you can see each of them now has a pass under the particular form template that we used. So this makes it easier to kind of do everything at the same time to everything on your list. Obviously, the more assets that you do an action to at a time, the longer it's going to take for the system to go through. But it does give you a quicker way of doing that. If anybody has any questions as we go, feel free to keep putting them in chat. All right, hopping back into the web real quick. I'm sorry, we do have one other here. In the old software, you had to pick a customer or owner, then sync it to show all the assets for that one customer on the desktop application. Is it the same with the new desktop application? So currently, you do have to sync. As of today, you do have to sync in order to have everything show up from the web or from mobile onto desktop. And if you do not sync, then it will not show any updates. So if I sync currently and then I go make a change and come back, it will not show that change. However, it still will show all the things that I have previously synced. However, one thing that we are working on and that once it's released, I will be doing a webinar on as well, is selective sync, which is the ability to sync only specific customers or specific locations. So we have a lot of customers that have a large database and they only want to be able to sync specific people. For instance, they only want to sync the order that they're currently working on. And that way it's not bogging down the system with a whole bunch of different assets they're not actually going to be looking at the moment. In the future, you will be able to select who you want to sync with, and then it'll only bring in those assets for you. So Currently, the answer is no, you do not have to, as long as you're okay not having the updates. Sorry, you're okay not having the changes reflected. You don't have to sync every single time. In the future, if you want to narrow down to just them, you can do that. But you can also have it sync automatically for you. You can log in essentially online on the desktop. Like I said, we'll be going over that as soon as it's released from TestLink. Then you can see as soon as this finishes uploading over here, we'll be able to hop back into the web and see what that looks like. It does take a little bit because there have been a lot of changes. It takes more time. Obviously, the fewer number of changes that you have, the faster it'll go through the sync itself. If we hop back real quick into the TestLink now, if I go into my assets, we can search for the one that we created. And it pops up now. So that's syncing two of them together. If you only want it for one customer right now, there's not a way to do that. You'll have to sync everything, but in the future, you will be able to sync for just that one customer. All right, let's take a quick look here at scheduled reports as well. This is something I touched on briefly with that 45-day notification period. While I'm doing this, like I said, feel free to keep putting questions in chat and we'll get to them right after I finish with this part. So over on this left-hand side, one of the things that you can do within TestLink is the ability to set up scheduled reports, which give you a report on when assets are coming up to be inspected. So if we go to scheduled here and we click on this blue plus button up in the top right, this one is not customer specific, so you do not have to choose a customer before you do it. You just create a new one, put in the name that we want. So Zero SEPCO monthly due and overdue. There's only one report type, so that makes it easy. We just go to periodic asset reports. For this particular one, I want it to be monthly, so I can repeat every month on the first of the month. You can select the owner. So for this particular one, I only want assets from SEPCO, but I might have a different report where I want every asset that I own or every asset that I've ever created and put into the database. And I can narrow down like that. So for this particular one, we'll say owner is SEPCO. If I want a specific location, you'll notice now we have Disneyland here. I can drop those down and choose a specific location, or in this case, I want to do the entirety of SEPCO. The schedule status is how far into the process of being inspected it is. So if it's current, and if I'm doing, for instance, a yearly inspection with a 30-day notification period, current would mean I'm in those first 11 months. Everything is good. We don't need to worry about it. Due means that we're in that last month, meaning it's coming up pretty soon. So we should probably make sure that that gets into the shop quickly to do a certification, or that we go out to the customer's location and do a certification there. And overdue means that we are past certification period. It's now out of compliance, in which case it needs to get taken care of very, very quickly. So we definitely recommend having a due and overdue for people. That way you're always on top of things that are coming up. However, current can also be nice so that you know kind of where everything stands if you want a full report. If you want to narrow down the particular assets that you're looking for by tags, for instance, if I only wanted pipes, if I only wanted things that had pipe from SEPCO that were due and overdue, I can narrow it down like that. If I want everything, just don't include tags, and it'll put in everything for you. And then lastly is targets. Targets are going to be the email addresses that you're sending this to. So this would be, this does not have to be to a customer. It can be any email address that you want. So I might send one to operations manager at SEPCO, and then I might also SEPCO.com. I might also send one to myself, and then also send one to the CEO at TeslaLink, or whoever else I want to put in. I can put in any email address that I want here. And then when I click save, it will have a report that sends on the 1st of every month to these email addresses for the list of everything from SEPCO that is due or overdue. So it's a handy little one to keep up with your own inspections and what's coming up, as well as send it to your customer if you want to do that, to retain stickiness a little bit, have them coming back to you. All right, one of the other things that we can do here, I'll go ahead while we wait for more questions in chat. We'll look at one of the other reports that we can do, which is a summarized report. So over on this left-hand side, if we go to reports and forms, click on summarized here. Completed ops form details is kind of an in-depth view of a particular form or set of forms that gives you a field level view. So when you're creating the form template, there's different areas of it. One is a section, and then within the sections you have different fields. The completed ops form detail report will give you a view all the way down to those particular fields. Summarize is going to be a more high level kind of thing. So this is what you would use more likely for a particular order, where you say, I want to look at everything that passed and failed. I just want to know whether it passed or failed, and then if it failed, I want to know why. And that's exactly what the summarized report does. So we choose our template, and this is the header and footer that you would be using. By default, it's TeslaLinks. However, you can upload your own very easily. For this particular one, I also want to show the date and time. If you're doing it just for a particular asset, it would probably be a little bit weird to run a summarized report for an asset, but you could, if you wanted to, for instance, see all the different forms as in general, what passed and failed on there. However, normally, like I said, you're going to be doing this either for an order or for a particular customer or something like that. So let's do like that. And then you can narrow it down however you need. So if you only want a particular owner, you only want particular locations, or you only want like pressure tests on here, or you only want things that passed over here, things that passed, you can narrow it down that way as well. Let's go ahead and press generate here though, and give it just a second to run. This will show as running until the page refreshes. So you can either up in the top left use the refresh button here, or in the top right here, or you can go work on other stuff, and when you come back, it'll be most likely done. So this is a small one, so I just click refresh, and it shows as completed. When we download that, it gives you a little bit of information about the report that you've run here. And then as we scroll down, this particular one, we had 6 forms that passed. So it's 100% passed, but it will also show you if you have any failed or any that are still in progress. This is also a very good way of checking to see where the process you are in a particular batch. For instance, if you have 45 forms that have been started and 5 that have been completed, it gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on for the particular batch itself. At that point, you're, what, 10% done. Further down, we have the result of each one. So it says, here's what the asset was. Here was the name of the form that was completed for it. And then here was the result of it. So it just gives you a quick little pass-fail. And then if anything fails, as we scroll down, it'll be put onto this discrepancy report, which will give you the asset number again, and then the task description, which is going to be essentially what failed, and then any comments on it. Hopping back into the assets over here real quick. There is one other thing that I want to show. Again, this is just kind of a medley of different topics. So if you guys have any questions about any of the things we're going over, throw them in the chat. But in the meantime, I do want to show you guys something that we have on a map view, which is kind of cool. If you select the different ones that you want to show on the map, so in this case, I'm going to do all 39, you can go up and there's a little button right here. And this will show you, if you've put in coordinates, it will show you where the coordinates are for those different things. So if you want to be able to see where your assets are by location, you can pull it up here and it will pinpoint on the map exactly where those are. Now, in order to get those GPS locations, you have to put them in on this right-hand side. So you can see this one doesn't have a latitude or longitude right now, and so it's not actually going to display this when we look. However, what this one does, I don't remember off the top of my head which ones have this. However, if we put in the latitude and longitude here, 36, it'll drop in and show us where it's going to be. In this case, I'm in the middle of the ocean. But then it'll also show up on that map view when we pull it up. So it's just a quick, cool little way of being able to see where all your different assets are. All right, we'll give a couple more minutes, probably 2 or 3 more minutes for any questions. If we don't have any further questions, then we'll go ahead and stop for today. Like I said, we will be releasing a fairly big update to the desktop application with the ability to sync coming up in the next few, probably the next few weeks. Can't promise the time frame on that, but as that comes out, we will also be sending out an email to all of our customers with a link to the webinar so we can go through that together and show everybody how to do it. That's going to be definitely the next big update on here. Beyond that, if you do have any questions, you can always reach out to your account manager or to myself. We have the information right here for you. And we'll be happy to set that up. This will be uploaded to YouTube. I should have it up by the end of the day. And that's going to be on just the TeslaLink YouTube under the free webinars playlist. If you'd like, I can also send you an email after this, assuming that you put in your email on this GoToMeeting registered. You can see over on the bottom right-hand side, we have the name of the YouTube channel there. We try and put these up for everybody, that way everyone has access to it and is able to kind of look back and review over anything that they might have missed, or if they have any other questions, they can kind of check that before they come to us. Because we have, between the YouTube channel and the help portal, we've amassed quite a bit of information there for you. So always feel free to. All righty. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your account manager or to myself, and we can go over anything specific that you have at that point, or we can set up a general session to go over on webinars for that. I appreciate you all coming out. You guys have a great day.